Welcome to another episode of Out There with Johnny. I was going to try to get some night under the sky footage using the AZ mount, the Mount Pro from Autorun. However, we've had 2 weeks of cloudy skies and the future isn't looking too good for the following week either, or the next week, actually couple weeks. So what I'm going to do instead is I've mocked up a setup. I've got the mount here, the ASIAIR Pro down here with the camera over here, battery hooked up to the ASIAIR Plus, sorry it is the Plus, and then I have my tablet here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mock up what I would be doing out of the sky, and then I'm going to show you on the tablet screen some of the menus, how I set it up. There's been questions from viewers on certain aspects of the ASIAIR Plus, so I'm going to show you those screens, I'm going to show you the selections, show you what it does the best I can without actually being out connected to a telescope and the full setup out of the stars. There's some things I can't do, but I can show you what it would do, and I'm going to step through these. So this is going to be a somewhat fairly comprehensive walkthrough of the screens and what it does. I'm not going to get into guiding with this particular episode, because I really do need to have a guide scope connected and out of the stars to really show you what that can do. But in the setup menus and stuff like that, for that we'll definitely go through, and maybe that'll answer some of the questions I've had from some of the previous videos. So I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to reorientate the camera and everything so you're looking at the screen of the tablet, and then we will kind of go through what we're looking at. But for now, this is powered up, it's calibrated, it thinks it's looking at M30, but it's not. Obviously I'm in a studio. The camera's hooked up, you can't really see anything with it, but I can show you how it reacts to with the menus. And of course the ASIAIR Plus itself, and the little battery pack that I always use when I use this. You remember the AZ Mount Pro has its own battery. So this battery is just to power up the ASIAIR Plus itself. If I'm on my Autorun Sim 25, then what I do is I take the main power, plug it into the ASIAIR Plus, and then I will power the mount off the ASIAIR Plus. If I want to cool my cameras, the power for cooling the cameras come off of this as well, so forth and so on. But for the purposes today, we're going to use the AZ Mount Pro, and I'm going to show you what the screens look like as we step through this. So let me take a few minutes to realign everything, and then we'll pick it back up from there. Okay, we're back, and I've got it sit on the home screen of the tablet. We're going to set it up for the ASIAIR Plus. The ASIAIR Plus is turned on. Should be sending a signal out now. So we're going to go up here to my astronomy tab. We're going to hit ASIAIR Plus. You notice it's not connected. So we're going to leave that there for now. We're going to go back to our screen. We're going to go down here. You're going to go to your Wi-Fi. You're going to look for the ASIAIR, which it shows. Well, that wasn't it. It shows right here, ASIAIR. You're going to click on that. It's going to show it connecting. Once it's connected, then we can go back to our ASIAIR. Okay, connection successful. So, this is what the screen looks like when you get it all, when you first bring it up, setting it up to go. Now, the very first time you do it, it's going to ask you for position values, cameras. It'll be a slightly different screen. But after you use it for so long, this is the screen it's going to default to when you start it up. At least for me, it does. So we're going to start at the very top here. On my particular tablet, it's going to show me my battery level of my tablet, how many minutes supposedly I have left, so forth and so on. That's kind of a misnomer. I'm sorry, it's the time. So it's the time of the day. Now, the important icons you want to start with is up here on the top right-hand side. So we're going to look at this Wi-Fi symbol first. Now, with the ASIAIR Plus, you can actually control your power ports. Now, the Pro shows this, but you don't really have control over it. It's just a firmware update that was common between the Pro and the Plus. So for the Plus, you can actually turn these things on individually, and then it'll tell you what your voltage output is for each one. It can tell you the CPU operating temperature, your output voltage, your input current, and then your total power. And I'm on 2.4G. You can actually swap it over to go to 5G if you want to. I leave it at 2.4 only because when I talk to some of my other stuff, it has to use 2.4. So if I'm using like my AZ GTI mount, my portable mount that you saw in the last video, it has to be on 2.4 or it won't work. So then you get your power output settings. You know, you can name it what you want it to be. Okay, number one is my telescope. But mine changes enough depending on where I mount it that I don't really give it a name per se. So I kind of just leave that as is. Then you got your Wi-Fi settings, your wired internet, personalized settings. You can switch your device, you can restart it, and you can shut it down. The next symbol you're going to look at is your camera. Now you notice this is grayed out, this is grayed out, this is grayed out, that's grayed out, that's grayed out, that's white. So grayed out means it's not turned on or it's not selectable. So if I go to the camera setting, okay, it says none. If I have a ZWO camera plugged in, it's going to recognize it, especially if it's a primary camera. In this case, my ASI 294MC Pro is plugged in. It sees it. I click on it, and then I can take my main scope focal length. I don't really have a scope plugged in right now. As you saw, it's just a bench test in the studio. So it's left over from my last scope that I used. We'll just leave it there. And then gain, you can default to low, medium, or high, or you can select it, or you can slide it anywhere in between all this. Keep it down low because I'm not looking at anything. Cooling defaults to on. I'm going to turn it off because I'm not supplying power to it right now to cool it off. And you can see your target value, so if it's on. But we're not going to use that. Oh, okay. It won't turn off because I haven't turned it on yet. Then you got to customize file name and event settings. So I go turn this on. All right, now it's talking to it. I can turn my cooling off. So now when I go back to my main menu, the camera icon is white. It means it's online and operating. Now the next symbol over is your guide camera. So I don't have a guide camera. If I had one plugged in, it would see it. Typically, it's my ASI 120mm Mini, but it's not there. You give the focal length of your guide scope. Same thing here, low, medium, high for your gain. But then you have your calibration steps. How many calibration steps? You know, you want 2,000, you want something less, 1,500. You know, it depends on how aggressive you want to be or not aggressive. And then your auto restore calibration. I leave that on. And then your guide camera bin to stability settings, dither settings, so forth and so on. I don't do a lot of guiding, so I'm not really fluent with it. But when I do use it, I leave it to default settings and it seems to operate just fine. So that stays gray. Now we go to the telescope. Now you have a lot of telescopes that they recognize that you can work with. In this particular case, I have it hooked up to the AZ Mount Pro 84.7, so we select that. When I'm using the AZ GTI in EQ mode, then I just use EQ mod, which is a selection in this case. So serial, or you can use Ethernet. And then I'm going to turn this on. It's going to go look for the telescope, or for the mount, sorry. It finds it. It's picking up where it thinks it is. And I'm going to sync the mount. It says sync successful. And I go back to here, and I'm white. Now the next one over is your focus. Not your focus, it's your filter wheel. I don't use one. People who use mono cameras use these. So I have no idea what all this stuff does in here. And then the electronic autofocuser. I don't have one of these. I use back pat it off mask, or I will use the focus assistant that's in this firmware or this software, which I've found works extremely well. So I don't have that. That'll stay gray. Now here's where the key point that people kind of run into a little bit of a problem and have questions. The ASIAIR Plus uses a eMMC circuit board on its internal. It means the operating system, the memory is all internal to a mounted circuit board. And 1 and 2, the first iteration and the second iteration, the Pro, everything's on an SD card. The operating system, everything's on an SD card. And you had to back up that operating system because SD cards, as you move them around, sometimes tend to not want to work. Some better than others. So what they did is they now have a programmable eMMC. So as you do firmware upgrades, so on, it all stays on the board, on the device. You're never swapping it in and out with the potential of corrupting anything. So the key thing here is when you click on that, you come up with two very important things, eMMC and SD. It defaults to eMMC. If you want to save your photographs on an SD card, you got to put one in the slot and tell it to go there. Otherwise, it automatically saves everything to your eMMC. So be aware of that. Now, on this screen, when you're done for the night, there's a few things you can do. You can go to your image management. It automatically puts all these folders up here for you: previews, live, auto runs, videos, and plans, which we'll get into those in more detail later. But this is left over from one of my previous viewings. And then, live, you see the darks that I took. Whoops. You can see the darks that I took, and you can see all the lights. So this is in GZC 7000. You can pick up, you can pick one and take a look at a single frame. So, as I said earlier, and it does, and I've told people, it will save every individual frame, even though you're doing a live stack, but you have to tell it to do that, and we'll get to that shortly. So that takes care of that. That shows you what. Now, here's the thing. If you forget to tell it to go to your SD card and you find that it saved everything in the eMMC, just go to your image management, pick what you want to transfer over. Like if I go to this N7000 here, if I just want to transfer over that one, you go to this little pin icon, you turn it green, and you look down here in the bottom, it says copy to, move to, or delete. If I want to move it or copy it, if I move it, it takes it off the eMMC and moves it to the SD card, or if I want to copy it. So if I say copy to, it's going to give me one choice, SD card. Even if you put in a USB stick into the Plus, it won't recognize it to move your data to. It's always going to look for the SD card. So it kind of locked us into having to put an SD card in to transfer files. Now, it's all I've ever been able to find. I have not been, I've plugged in USB sticks, memory sticks. It will not see them to move files. So you just tell it to move the SD card. It's going to copy it over there. Done. And then what you can do is you can go back to your management. You can pick your SD card, go to your image management, previews where it was, bingo, and there it is. And so you can see your preview. So there it is, your single frame of the North American Nebula on my preview. All right, so that takes care of everything across here. Now, when I connect the scope up to it, you're going to get your scope control window here. With the scope not turned on, there's nothing here, as you can see right now. With the scope on, now I have speed and direction touch points here. Now, the nice thing I like about the ASIAIR Plus is I don't use a finder scope anymore. I haven't used one in forever. Ever since the Pro came out. The Plus mounts where the finder scope used to go, because I use the plate solving power and everything of the Plus. So if I want to go someplace, what I'll do is I will
go to one of my Sky Safari Pro, okay, look in the area that I want to go to. In this case, let's see what's up there. So M30 is in a pretty good position right now, even though I'm not really seeing anything. I don't want to drive the scope into down in the dirt or something like that. So M30, we'll use that. Go back to here. So I've already selected it. So it gives you tonight's best. It gives you a nice little, some photo from wherever it is. Or you can go to search and you can type it in manually. So up here, I'll put in M30. And then this is what's nice here. It tells you where it's at by time. So when's it my best peak time to photograph this? And then once you see this, you touch that, highlights it. Then you get your green aerial selection down here. And that is your go-to. Now it's going to go to where it thinks it's at, and it's going to want to take a picture. It's going to plate solve, and it's going to position it. Now, because it can't really see anything, we're going to cancel out of this because there's nothing for it to solve. It's just a camera with a dust cap over it. But you can see how that works. And then it'll center it. And then when you're done with all of that, you can go to any one of your plans. Typically when it centers on something, I've already done all my focusing. Focusing is just that, 1 second. And what it does is it'll take 1 second photos. And then if there's a star in here that I want to focus on to fine tune my focusing, I can move this around. And then I hit this, and then it puts a star in the middle of the field here where you had the green rectangle or square. And then you do your typical values for the lowest value and the higher value to tell you when you're actually in focus. And I found that this actually works quite well. And when you're done with that, you stop this. Then I usually go from there from an Alt-As. I can skip my PA. If I want a PA, which is polar alignment, then what happens here is I put it somewhere, NCP as close as I can get. Then I hit the play button here. It'll take a photo. It'll plate solve. Then it'll say, okay, it's ready to go. So then what it'll do is it'll automatically drive the mount if you are connected to the mount 60 degrees over, takes another photo, compares, and then says, okay, I'm ready to plate solve. And then you hit go, and then it tells you it puts a dot, and there's a rectangular up here with a reticle with degrees, and then you manually move your telescope with the knobs, altitude and AZ and declination dot knobs, to get the dot that's into the closest to the center of the crosshairs as you can. Once you're there, it gets a little smiley face up here, and then it gives you the numbers that you're off. And if you really want to fine tune it, you can. But once you're done, you can say finished, and your polar alignment's done. And I usually can get it done in about 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes less. And then preview is just that. So I did a 1 second preview, and what it's going to do is it's going to use a full frame of your camera and your optics, and it's going to do a preview. Again, we're not outside; it's cloudy. It's just got a dust cap over the phone or over the lens. And then you can go as The only gripe I have with the ASIAIR Plus, and I had the same gripe with the Pro as well, is the increments. There's a lot of times 15 seconds works great for me, or 20 seconds works great for me, but it jumps from 10 to 30, and I really don't like that. So I'm kind of slave to go all the way up to 30. Sometimes if I want to do something a little quicker, but it's good enough, and I want to do 20 or whatever, I just don't have that option. And then from 30 it goes to 60, and from 60 to 120. There's nothing in between. I really wish they had a slider bar that would allow me to fine tune how many seconds do I really want to shoot for. I can understand that, a lot of this is probably pretty common or whatever, but I like to fine tune it to keep it down to as minimum as possible so that I'm not sitting out there waiting for a photo for stacking for too terribly long. It's a personal gripe. It works great. I mean, there's no fault in how well it works. I just wish I could fine tune my exposures a little bit more. So once you do that, you pick what you want. Then you go to Autorun below preview. Autorun is just what it sounds like. You go to your three dots here, and then you start, what is my target? And then, meridian flip. How do I want it? Do I want to do a meridian flip? Do I not want to do a meridian flip? I'm doing alt as, it doesn't matter. First delay, your interval. And then when you're done, do I shut down ASIAIR? Do I go to home position? What things do I want it to do? And then up here, you pick your lights, your bias, your flats, your darks, exposure time, how many times you want it to repeat, and then what bend levels you want to do for it. And then when all of that's set up, then you just hit the go button there, and it does the auto run. And it tells you how many it's done of each one as it goes through. And then after auto run, you got plan. Plan is just that. So I'm not going to go into real detail of this, but essentially you're creating a plan. And, plan name. When do you start, start guiding? Do you do your flip? Start at now, or do I start at a time? And then end at, when do you want it to end? Do you turn off the cooler? Do you go to home position? This is all with the end stuff. But we're not going to do that. I don't usually use plans. And then after the plan is live, this is where I spend 99% of my time is in live. I really, really like the live because I can see it as it stacks and forms the object. And again, am I doing lights? Am I doing flats, darks, biases? This is the important piece about this. You notice down here, flats, dark, biases. What I typically do is I start with darks and, pick your number of darks you want to do. It's going to stack those darks. And then what it's going to do is it's going to use those darks with your lights if you click the box. It saves it into the dark file. You tell it where that dark file is. You click on that, and it's going to apply that dark file to every shot it takes. Great thing to have. And then the lights, again, what's your exposure time? No limit. I don't usually put a limit because I just sit out there with it. If I want it to shut down or whatever, then I'll just hit, I want it to take 20, 30, whatever. This is the important piece down here. You got to tell it to save every frame when you're stacking. If you forget to turn that on, then at the end of the night, you've got none of your individual frames to go stack manually to a third party. So remember to always toggle that to green. And then, we don't care. And then you hit the go button here, and then you watch everything down here. So again, this is the size of your photo. This is your gain of your camera. This is the temperature the camera's running at. Cooler's on or off. This is how many of you stacked, how many of you ignored, so forth and so on. So, and you can watch it coming up. And then the histogram's kind of important because you can reset this to, you don't really see anything. You go to auto and it really squeezes it in there, or you can manually change it around yourself. Excuse me. So it gives you an idea. And again, post-processing always brings out finer things, but this does a really nice job, especially if you're doing a star party. You want people to see things fairly quickly. And then when you're done, if you've got it unlimited like I do, you just hit this again. It's a toggle switch. It just turns it off. And then everything's saved into your your live file. So again, I'll go back and show you that. Okay, live, I did live. I did my darks, and then my lights, because I told it to go to NG7000, it started taking all my lights there. So because I turned on the individual, it saved every individual frame. And of course, you can pull up any individuals and look at them as well. And you can stack these manually by taking your SD card, putting it in a computer, and doing it and stacking it using other software. All right, so that's, and then video. Video is the last one. If you're doing planetary stuff, this is what the video is for. If you got a planetary video camera and a telescope that can do that, then this is what you want to use. You can pick your resolutions. You can, wide balance, gains. There's a lot of stuff here. I don't have a camera that does this. I think the 294 does this to a certain degree, but I've never really used it for that kind of thing. So we'll go back up here to focus. Now over here on this side, we already talked about the plus over here. This plus was for doing the focusing with the star. Histogram, I can turn on and off. It's a toggle switch. Guide, if I'm guiding, I can hit guide. It brings up the small graph here, so I can kind of watch what it's doing, or I can touch the graph and then I can put the large graph down here. Or I can just turn it off altogether. And then tools, crosshairs. I haven't seen any use for the annotate or the detect star. It's been grayed out since I've had it. I'll have to probably explore some more with that. The other thing you can do is I can just touch the screen depending on what I'm doing. So if I go to preview, let's do a 1 second exposure. We get that up there. If I hit the screen, everything goes away. I can see the whole photo without anything being in the way. Just click again. Now, this one down here that we haven't really talked about, what that does is that saves the screen as you see your photo, right? So if I hit that, it says save succeeded, but it doesn't go where you think it does. It saves it to your photo file on your device. So if I go up to here to photo file, there it is. It's not on the SD card. It's not on the eMMC. It's on the device itself that you're using. So keep that in mind when you're using this, that it's throwing it in wherever your photo files are. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, that's pretty much it. I hope I answered a lot of questions. If I didn't, put them in the comments down below. I'll see what I can find out. I'm one of the what they call experience officers for ZWO for this Plus, as well as some other things. So again, appreciate you guys watching this. Appreciate your questions. I try to answer them as quickly as I can. I hope you enjoyed this video. Get out there, get under the stars, look for things. Even if you've got a pair of binoculars, you can be amazed what you can see with just a pair of binoculars, even in a light polluted sky. So that's it for this one. I'm waiting for a clear night. When I get a clear night, I'll get the ED80 out and we'll walk through some other things. But for now, this is the best I can do. So I will be seeing you out there.